the very first thing I'd like to do is just put our point charge in the environment here. So what I'm going to do is in the Draw tab, if I go to this button here, it says Draw Sphere. So I want you to pay attention. Before I do this, over here in the bottom left, very bottom left, you'll see it says Ready. You'll notice that there's going to be some commands that will pop up down there, and it's going to tell me what to do as soon as I click this button. So when I click Draw Sphere, there's a Measure Data window that just popped up, and if you look on the bottom left down here, it says Enter the center position. So I could use these field boxes down here, and we could have a separate discussion about that. For now, I'm just going to use the interactive mode. You'll see it's trying to snap to those grid locations here. I want to drop it right at the origin, just like we did with our analytical point charge. So I click the left mouse button the first time, and now it says Enter the radius. We get to choose what we want this to be. We didn't talk about a radius for our so-called point charge in the previous lesson. So I'm gonna just choose 1 millimeter for the radius. So if I follow the measurement tab here, it looks like that gets me about 1 millimeter. If you look at the distance, it shows distance equals 1 millimeter. I'm gonna go ahead and click, and when I do that, I get this new object that shows up in my modeler tree here. Now over here in the modeler tree, I can, by the way, I can always just click off into the dead space, and then that object is no longer highlighted. But I can see in the modeler tree there's a hierarchy. So in the node called Model, I can see there's something called Solids. Apparently there are materials I can see here. This is defaulting to a vacuum. And then underneath that, I can see the hierarchy of these commands. I've got an object called Sphere 1. If I click it here, I can get information from it in the property panel. I can also click it in the actual modeler window as well. And again, I can hold Control, click to deselect it, or just click with the left button to select, or I could click off in the dead space. Lots of different ways to do this. So what I'm going to first do is we want to do an electrostatics design. This is defaulted. You can see here in the name of the Maxwell 3D Design 1, it's telling us that it is a magnetostatic design, or I should say solution type. So to change that, I should have done this first. I'm going to go to Maxwell 3D, and I will choose solution type, and I'll change this to electrostatics. So notice the different types, and some of these may be useful for later lessons, but we're not going to do a magnetic simulation. We're going to do an electric simulation, and it's going to be electrostatic. As soon as I OK that, I'll see it changes, and it's a good habit to go ahead and save as you go along. So I'll just go ahead and let this save at the default location. I'm just going to go ahead and keep it as Project 4 for now, and I can always rename it later. This is a great time for you to rename it anything you like. So I'm going to change the property to something else. If I right-click Sphere 1, the object that is now mapped to something called vacuum, if I right-click this, I can assign a different material to it. So when I choose that, this window popped up on my second monitor. I can see here there's a list of items, I should say materials, that have properties that are going to be relevant for any simulation that we do. I'm going to search on copper and see what comes up, and I can see here I've got copper. I've got a bulk conductivity to find here. There are different ways to do this. I'm going to go ahead and choose this value right now. The next thing I want to do, I'm going to zoom out with my scroll wheel, and I'm going to create what's called a region. So if you look over here, there's a box that looks like it's kind of a transparent red rectangular box. I'm gonna hit that button, and let's go ahead and see what options we have here. What I'm trying to do is basically set up the solution space. So in the analytical calculation, the assumption for that equation to work was that we are in a free space environment, which means that it's as if the only thing that existed in the universe was that one charge and infinity. The computational solution needs to have some explicit boundary and limits and extents applied to it. So what I'm going to do is embed this small 1 millimeter radius charged object inside a larger volume that's going to be, we get to decide right now. I'm going to make it maybe, let's say 500 millimeters. So about half a meter is going to be the length on a side. And there's a reason for that, and I'll try to hit on that when we actually set up the excitations and the boundaries. So right now, I'm going to choose padding data of pad all directions similarly. Instead of a percentage offset, let's just, I think it's a little easier to just use a absolute offset. So what we're going to say right now is it's going to make the boundary looking at all sides 250 millimeters in the positive x, positive y, and positive z and negative z directions, if we do it this way. And each side of that box should be about 500 millimeters if I do this properly. So when I select OK, you'll notice here there's now a vacuum material that showed up again because this region defaults to that material. So now I basically have two objects. I have this thing called region. I can zoom out, and sure enough, that looks like, if I compare that length to my ruler, I can hit this little compass orientation here, and I can see that appears, when I compare it to the ruler, to be about what I thought, 500 millimeters on the side, and way down in the center is our object that's going to represent the charge. So hopefully you have something similar. So from a model standpoint, everything has been done. I don't know if I talked about this earlier, but I get to rotate the view that I'm showing you by holding down my scroll wheel in that same fashion. There's other ways of doing it here. I can go through these different pan and rotate and orientation. So if you're having any difficulty with maybe the trackpad, you might play around with those sorts of settings. We have other discussions on that, on how to navigate, and we're just gonna skip over them here.